All right, in this video, we'll be looking at bivalves and we'll be looking at cephalopods as two other classes of mollusks. So bivalves are, this is like clams and scallops and oysters and something called shipworms. These are also known as Cephalopoda or hatchetfoot. They can be anywhere from 1 millimeter in size to 1 meter in size. Most of them are filter feeders. They have no head to speak of. They do not have a radula, very little, if any, kind of cephalization. Most are marine, but there are some freshwater species. We have some freshwater species in this part of the country. So again, they're filter feeders. They're filtering the sediment out of the water and eating whatever is there for them to eat. As far as their shells, they have two shells that dorsally are held together by a hinge ligament. So, and it's a very strong ligament if you've ever tried to open one of these clams. And so, if this clam is this clam is oriented to where the dorsal end is up and the ventral end is down, and growth is out of that umbo area in concentric circles. It's almost like a growth ring. You know, you think of like trees, um, and a lot of them make pearls, and pearl production has to do when foreign particles get lodged in between the shell and the mantles. And so, what pearl farms actually do is they will introduce particles between the shell and the mantle in order to cause pearl production, which is pretty cool. As far as moving, they basically extend the foot out and anchor it into the sand, and this allows them to pull forward. Some of them are actually able to swim by kind of clapping together their shell, just kind of push themselves forward a little bit. Um, they're not boring, but they do bore. So just a couple things before we talk about that. They have gills for gas exchange. Their gills are also modified for filter feeding, internal um, circulation, three-chambered heart, U-shaped kidneys, which are called nephridial tubules, um, external fertilization for most species, um, but internal fertilization in some freshwater clams. Um, and so, for as far as boring is concerned, they actually will dig holes. They can bore into sand, and some of them can even dig holes into rock. And they kind of create these little feeding pits for themselves. Just pretty fascinating. You wouldn't think that from clams. They seem pretty simple, but you know they can be complex organisms. So for cephalopods, these are squid, octopi, cuttlefish, nautiluses. These are head-footed organisms because the foot extends from the head region. The foot is for expelling water from the mantle cavity, and then you also have of course, the arms and the tentacles. These can be anything from 2 centimeters to 20 to 30 meters in length. You know, with the colossal squid, very long organism. This kind of gives you an idea here of the squid. There's the blue whale there, the king of all animals. But then the giant squid can be really big, and the colossal squid. There's question marks here because they didn't know, but they have since found colossal squid, which is interesting, and they found them to be very large. Giant squid or colossal squid are the largest invertebrates on Earth. A little bit on their form and function. So for their shells have a series of gas chambers which give them buoyancy. The nautilus, you know, it's a famous nautilus shell that has that perfect ratio or whatever in there, which is another other math thing, but gives these organisms buoyancy. They can fill them with gas in order to have more or less buoyancy. For squid and octopi, these shells have almost completely disappeared, and they have some remaining cartilage for muscle attachment, and to give them some rigidity. As far as locomotion, they swim by expelling water from their mantle cavity, and they can change direction by directing the the funnel that does that. Many of them are excellent swimmers, can swim really quickly, and are able to change directions really quickly. Um, as far as internal features, nervous system sensory, most of them have one pair of gills, closed circulatory system in most, which is different for mollusks. Very elaborate sensory nervous system, largest brains of any invertebrates by far, considered among the smartest animals on Earth as far as the octopi is concerned. Very complex eyes with a lens and a retina, and so again, it's hard to undersell how intelligent they are, particularly for an invertebrate. They tend to be problem solvers. They can expel ink in order to get away from prey, which is what the whole ink thing is about. Reproduction, don't even know if I have a slide for it. Don't Internal fertilization for reproduction. So again, one of the most fascinating classes in the animal kingdom.